Today is November 29th, 2024. I'm doing a sewer camera inspection on Quebec. I've got an access point located on the right rear corner of the primary basement, and the report is as follows. So I've covered this inside the inspection report just a little bit as we have some problems. Well, you can't look up there because the light's going to blind us. But the midsection of our pipe here is made out of PVC. But the lower section, as you see this coupling right here, this begins cast iron as it goes under the concrete floor. For a house of this age, there's a couple things you need to keep in mind. First and foremost is that when this house was built, indoor plumbing wasn't a thing. And so, that means that it had to be added after the fact. Typically, houses in our area started to get plumbing around the 1900 to 1910, all the way up until the 1920 range. Regardless, the answer that I have here is that cast iron is basically on its last leg at this time period for a house of this age. And so with that in mind, I've got some issues inside the report with the cast iron, but also be mindful that, there's some places here as it goes down and below the floor that will likely need to be addressed here in the future as well. So as we go down, the pipe makes a 90-degree turn, and we actually transition here from cast iron into terracotta clay pipe. So that's what we're looking at as we look down the pipe. We can see here that we do have some type of an issue that's happening, even though we haven't made it very far into this pipe. Standing water inside the pipe is an illustration that we either have a clog or we have an area of improper pitch. So likelihood is that as we get into the water is going to be very dark and murky and full of tenants materials. We're not going to get much visibility, so we're just going to kind of have to dive into this and try to push forward and get through it to the other side. Okay, so what we're dealing with here is a case of improper pitch. So I have good news and bad news with this, all right? Good news is that, well, in the course of getting rid of the cast iron, you're going to have to get into the concrete floor a little bit at some point. At that time, you could go ahead and take up a little bit more of the concrete floor to correct this issue. In its current present state, even though it's not great, it doesn't seem to be causing too much of an issue. And the big reason behind this is that the cast iron up above us starts on the second floor. So, toilet flushes, vanity sinks, showers, tubs, they're basically free falling 2 floors to get down this pipe. And so basically everything that's going through the area of improper pitch is just getting really blasted right on through there because we have a ton of momentum. If that issue was further down the pipe, that would have definitely been an issue because at that point momentum starts to slow down. On the flip side of things that are still concerning, well, we've just blown almost all of our momentum to try to blast through that area of low water or present water. And so that means from here on out, the amount of pressure or amount of flow that we're going to be having is going to be less than desirable. So the thing we can hope for from here is that the pipe has good pitch to keep that water moving quickly and efficiently. As we move to this next connection point, all right, every 3 feet, our clay pipe has connections, which we call the hub. The hub basically looks like a PVC pipe fitting. On one end, you have a large, oversized bell shape, and the other end is a straight cut pipe that slides into it. So as we look here into the next connection, you can see here that, well, we've got a disconnection. Those 2 pipes are not married together. And so at the very top of the pipe, what you're looking at there is visible soil. And so, while everything looks like it's well fitted at this point in time, those are really not ideal circumstances to be seeing because one shift or move could cause for that to kind of break away even further. So that is kind of a priority item I would also encourage to be addressed, if not now, in the coming years. So this section of the pipe, as you see me kind of clicking along, this is more customary to what we should have been seeing the entire time thus far. So we're doing good. So the pipe has good pitch, as I was hoping it might. And so we are starting in the right rear of the basement. And so basically everything that you've seen up to this point, probably around the 35 to 40 foot mark, is going to be stuff that's here underneath the basement. So now that we're kind of getting beyond the 40 foot mark, we're going out into the front yard, under the front porch, under the deck, and then into the grassy area in the front porch on the way to the sidewalk and street. Okay, so right here, in fact, I actually saw some evidence of this in the front yard. The front yard had some really odd divots in it. And I thought maybe there was a chance that maybe we had, like a dumpster out front at some point and it made some ruts. But I think it's more common, and this is where my brain was going, was that, hey, I think maybe the sewer's been dug up. So what you see here ahead of us, this is PVC pipe. And so this does illustrate the fact that there has been some type of replacement that had to happen out there in the yard. So more specifically, the teal colored pipe, this is known as SDR35. Again, it's a type of PVC pipe. And given the extent that we see here and how long it's lasting, it may indicate this was a city repair. Still dealing with PVC here. And we're going to see a transition here from PVC back to the terracotta clay pipe. Okay, but we got a problem here. So if you look across the top of the pipe, I have a small hairline crack. In the bottom of the pipe, kind of by that big goober of material, you'll actually look to the right of it and you're going to see a pretty sizable crack there in the floor. And there's the very slightest remnants of a hairline crack here on the right side wall. And so basically what's happening in this area is the pipe is trying or starting to collapse. And so, especially if you kind of look at this with a critical eye, you're going to notice that this pipe is slightly oval shaped instead of perfectly round like the pipes have been showing you. So the downfall sometimes of when we have a pipe replaced is the soil disturbance. You've got guys out here with a mini excavator or something like that, and soil that hasn't been, touched or molested for 100 years is now unearthed, and we're now dealing with a bunch of soil that has to kind of recompact. And so that can cause some issues with things, compacting a little bit harder than what you're expecting, and or causing some shifting and movement in the soils. And so now we are on 3 segments. So that's 3, 6, 9 feet worth of cracking. We're still continuing to see cracking at the left, the right, and the ceiling of the pipe right here. So this is going to take us to the 12-foot mark of pipes being damaged, and this section here looks like our first good segment back again. Okay, so here we are. This is the city sewer tap, total distance of about 94 feet as a total inspection. Good news, bad news on this segment. Given the proximity of our problems that we just discovered, the 12 feet roughly of piping that has the cracks in the oval shape, it is in very close proximity to the street. And so generally speaking, I tell people that you can account for about 15 to 20 feet of pipe counting backwards from the street to your area where we refer to it as the right-of-way. So the easiest way to put this is if it is under the street, if it is under the sidewalk, or in a very small green space just to the side of the sidewalk as you come up into the yard, that area is known as the easement or the right-of-way, and you've got other things there, water lines, gas lines, other people's sewer lines, sometimes electric, telephone, fiber optics, etc. And so that area is being maintained by outside contractors. And so basically they just say, hey, look, we'll take care of that ourselves because we know it's there and we don't want other people, getting into that area. So, in this case, this last section, these 12 feet that are in question, the first course of action before I jump to the occasion of having a repair made is to narrow down who's in charge. Ideally, we've determined that MSD or Metropolitan Sewer District is the one that's going to be in handle of this. And once we do, then we can just share this video with them for further review on their end. They put a file or our address on file at the city building, and eventually we get ourselves a repair that should come at no cost to us. But at the flip side, there's a chance that MSD may clean their hands of this and say, hey, it's not our problem. And then, of course, then you would need a private plumber of your own to make those repairs. So a little bit of homework that needs to happen there on behalf of the seller. But again, the seller is the person that's paying the bills and paying the taxes here. So they're the ones that have to sort this out. But there's a handful of other issues at the beginning of this pipe that also have some issues that need to be addressed as well. So overall, recommendation is going to be we need a plumber here. It's some of it is discretionary as to how much of a plumber do we need that would be on our bill. But nonetheless, sharing this video for further review and scope of work and cost would definitely be my recommendation moving